to enjoy your time here and find peace in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. The bright red, happiness, character was still pasted on the curtain, so fresh and vibrant it was almost blinding. But my mood at this moment was 100 times more radiant than this red. Because my new lead husband, the legendary great General Victor Huo of the northern frontier, the one said to kill without batting an eye, had already led his troops out on campaign before dawn this morning. Madame, please don't be too heartbroken. Jade, my personal maid, said with red-rimmed eyes as she combed my hair and sniffled. The general had no choice. The border is in urgent need. The imperial decree is hard to defy, even for newlyweds. I looked into the mirror at my face, untouched by powder or rouge yet still strikingly beautiful, and fought hard to suppress the smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. I forced out an expression of deep loss and sorrow. Yes, as the general's wife, I naturally must understand his difficulties. Understand. I honestly wanted to kowtow and thank him. My name is Sophia Su. I used to be a carefree recluse deep in the mountains. My greatest pleasures in life were sunbathing, sleeping, and eating delicious food. Who would have thought my old fortune teller father would owe a favor to the old general of the Hu family and insist on marrying me off as Victor's second wife? They say Victor already has 3 children from his previous marriage, descendants of loyal ministers from the previous dynasty, and every single one of them is eccentric and extremely difficult to handle. Several young ladies from noble families who tried to enter the Hu gates before me were either scared off or driven to illness. My father said, "My daughter, this is a pit of fire, but the Su family values honor and keeps its promises. Go and deal with it for a while. If you truly cannot endure it and get divorced, just come home." My father raised me my whole life. Those words were exactly what I needed. As long as I acted useless enough, lazy enough, and unvirtuous enough, then when Victor returned victorious, or when that grand tutor Wei I had never even met came looking for trouble, a divorce letter would be as good as in the palm of my hand. "Madam, the 3 young masters have come to pay their respects." The little maid outside the door sounded terrified. The comb in Jade's hand clattered to the floor. Her face turned deathly pale. "Madam, I've long heard these 3 young masters are not to be trifled with. Especially the eldest, Liu Hu. They say at 10 years old he could kill a bull with his bare hands. What are we going to do?" I yawned, lazily stood up, casually smoothed my long hair that spilled over my shoulders, and said, "What else can we do? Meet them. After all, sooner or later they would drive me away anyway." I pushed open the door. The morning sunlight was a little blinding. I had to squint. In the courtyard stood 3 youths. The one in front, about 15 or 16, wore a black martial robe, his back as straight as a spear. His brows were full of arrogance. He looked at me as if I were his father's murderer. This must be the eldest, Leo. Beside him stood one a little shorter, dressed in a scholar's robe faded from many washings, a book in his hand. His face was pale and gloomy, his eyes showing lofty disdain and contempt for me. This was the second Jasper. The smallest one sat in a wheelchair, about 7 years old, wrapped up tightly like a rice dumpling. He coughed from time to time, his face sallow as if he might breathe his last at any moment. This was the third, Benny. These were not 3 children, they were clearly 3 debt collectors. "You woman." Leo spoke first, his voice cold as iron. "Don't think that marrying my adoptive father makes you our mother. No one in this house acknowledges you." I rubbed my still, sleepy eyes and nodded. "Oh." Leo looked as if he had punched cotton, his brows furrowed even tighter. He stepped forward. The pressure of someone who trained in martial arts daily pressed into my face. "Do you know martial arts?" I answered honestly, shaking my head. "No." "Do you understand military strategy?" "No." "Do you know how to manage accounts?" "No. Just calculating gives me a headache." Leo laughed coldly and turned to Jasper. "Second brother, see. I told you adoptive father was tricked. Besides a bit of beauty, this woman is completely useless." Jasper closed the book in his hand and said indifferently, "Big brother, a beautiful face is a source of disaster. The ancients did not deceive us. Keeping a wild village woman like this in the manor will only ruin the Hu family's reputation." Jade standing behind me trembled with anger and wanted to rush forward to argue, but I stopped her. I looked at the 3 brats rubbing their hands and preparing to teach me a lesson, and felt only amusement in my heart. Want to drive me away? Then our goals were perfectly aligned. I walked to the stone table in the courtyard, sat down heavily, crossed my legs without any decorum, and said, "Since you don't think much of me, let's mind our own business. I won't manage you, and you won't bother me. How about that?" Leo clearly hadn't expected me to be so shamelessly lazy. He was stunned for a moment, then his anger flared even hotter. "In your dreams. Before the adoptive father left, he instructed us to obey your discipline. If you don't discipline us strictly, when he returns we will report you for mistreating your husband's children." "Oh, you're quite good at blackmailing people." I sighed, a little annoyed. If I were really accused of mistreatment, I wouldn't just get divorced. I'd be punished. It looked like I had to change strategy. "So what do you want?" I rested my chin on my hand, my eyelids already drooping. Leo drew the sword at his waist with a whoosh. Cold light flashed as he pointed it straight at the tip of my nose. "I want to learn martial arts. My adoptive father is busy with military affairs and has no time to teach me. You are the general's wife. Since you've entered this gate, you must take responsibility. If you can't teach me, then pack your things and get out of the Hu Manor." The tip of the sword was only an inch from my nose. Jade screamed, "Eldest young master, don't." I didn't even bat an eyelash. I merely felt the sword light hurting my eyes. I raised my hand, lightly flicked the blade aside with 2 fingers, and said slowly, "You want to learn martial arts?" Leo sheathed his sword and answered arrogantly, "I want to learn the most powerful sword technique in the world. I want to kill all treacherous ministers and avenge my birth parents." What childish lines. I glanced at the large broom sweeping fallen leaves in the corner of the courtyard. An idea flashed in my mind. True swordsmanship does not lie in the sword but in the heart. I pretended to be profound and sighed, stood up, walked to the corner, picked up that huge, fluffy broom and tossed it at Leo's feet. It clattered loudly. Leo was stunned. What does this mean? If there is no sword in your heart, then all things are swords. I fought back a yawn and began to spout nonsense. Your killing intent is too heavy, your sword follows a rigid path. If you practice swordsmanship now you will only suffer deviation. If you want to learn peerless martial arts, first sweep the courtyard. Leo's eyes widened as if he had heard something utterly absurd. You want me to sweep the courtyard? I am a descendant of a general's family, and you want me to do a servant's job. Why? You're unwilling. I yawned again, turned and walked inside. This broom has its own rules. When you can sweep the entire courtyard full of fallen leaves without stirring up a single speck of dust, and when you can use this broom to sweep a single leaf without damaging even the tiniest vein, then you will have understood. Leo stood frozen in place, staring at the broom on the ground, his face turned green then white. Jasper beside him sneered. "Big brother, this woman is clearly toying with you. What kind of mental technique is this?" I stopped, turned my head and gave them a lazy glance. The kind I had practiced from years of sunbathing, also known as the vacant stare. "Believe it or not, it's up to you." I waved my hand as if shooing them away. "I'm going back to sleep, don't disturb me unless the sky falls." With that I closed the door directly, leaving the 3 stunned youths and the morning sunlight outside. Jade paced anxiously. "Madam, you really sent the eldest young master away so politely. What if he gets angry and smashes up the whole courtyard?" I flopped onto the soft bed and let out a satisfied sigh. Smashing it would be even better. If he smashes it, I can use that as an excuse to write the general a letter asking him to divorce me. But what I never expected was that no sound of smashing came from the courtyard. After a long while, the rhythmic sound of sweeping, swish, swish, drifted in through the window, surprisingly soothing, almost like a lullaby. I thought drowsily, this unlucky child actually believed me. I slept until the sky was bright and the sun high before waking lazily. When I woke, the soothing sweeping sound was gone. Instead, a rhythmic reading of the classics pierced my ears like demonic chanting. The master said only women and petty persons are difficult to nurture. If you draw them close they become insubordinate. If you keep them at a distance they resent you. The sharp, indignant voice was right outside my window. I covered my ears in pain and rolled twice on the bed. What sin had I committed? Even sleeping in was this difficult. Jade came in carrying washing water, her face full of helplessness. "Madam, you're awake. The second young master has been reading outside for a whole hour. His throat is almost hoarse." I sat up with my messy hair, grinding my teeth. "Is he cursing me?" Jade smiled wryly. "The second young master says these are the words of the sages. He is using them to examine himself every moment." Examine what? He's clearly pointing at the mulberry tree to curse the locust. I dressed furiously and pushed the door open. Sure enough, Jasper stood under the corridor, book in hand, the same one he hadn't turned a single page of all morning, reading aloud with his back to me. When he saw me come out, he read even more energetically. His voice rose an octave. In the distance, Leo was still sweeping the courtyard, but now he was sweating profusely, his eyes burning with fervor. Every sweep of the broom carried a gust of wind, sending fallen leaves swirling into the air before they scattered everywhere again. This wasn't sweeping. This was creating a sandstorm. I shouted. Jasper's reading halted abruptly. Leo's broom froze in mid-air. Both youths looked at me at the same time. Leo wiped his sweat, his eyes glowed frighteningly bright. Mother, this broom is truly mystical. I've been sweeping all morning. My arms feel sore as if the bones are about to break, but inside my body there seems to be a stream of ki circulating. Is this the inner force you spoke of? The corner of my mouth twitched. That's lactic acid, kid. But in front of them I had to stay calm. I nodded slightly. You have some insight. Continue. Leo was overjoyed. His broom sweeping became even more vigorous. The dust in the courtyard grew thicker. I turned to Jasper. The boy's face was full of contempt, his eyes clearly saying, "You're fooling the fool, aren't you? Second young master." I tried to make my voice sound perfectly calm. Reading is good, but could you not stand under my window to do it? The Who Manor is so large, surely there's room for your pile of fake scholarly pretense. Jasper snorted coldly, hid the book behind his back and lifted his chin high. I am a scholar. The sound of reading is the righteous cry of heaven and earth. This courtyard is the main one. It has the richest righteous key. Besides, before father left he instructed me to study hard so that later I may gain official rank and revive the family's prestige. So, is mother complaining that my reading is too noisy, or that you simply cannot understand the sage's books and therefore find them grating? What book are you reading? I walked up, snatched the book from his hand, flipped through it casually. No matter how loudly you read, it's still a dead book. Jasper bristled like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. What did you say? This is a unique edition. I don't understand. Could a village woman like you possibly understand? I honestly admitted, I really don't understand, but I know that a true scholar must have mountains in his heart and the universe in his eyes. Look at you. After reading so long, besides having a louder voice and a worse temper, what else have you gained? Jasper's face reddened. You woman and petty person. Enough, stop repeating that line. My ears are about to grow calluses. I tossed the book back into his arms, pointed impatiently toward the rear courtyard. Books are dead, heaven and earth are alive. You want official rank, you want to become a great minister. Then you must learn the art of governing people, the art of deploying troops and forming battle arrays, the art of controlling the whole situation. Jasper was momentarily stunned, a flicker of interest appeared in his eyes. Control the whole situation. Exactly. I spoke nonsense with a straight face. What use is mere memorization? When you stand at court, who will be reciting books with you? There it's all real blades and real swords, real scheming. So how should one study? Jasper's tone unconsciously softened, carrying a trace of eagerness to learn. I looked around. I really couldn't find any proper teaching tools. Suddenly I heard quacking from the rear courtyard. Those were ducks sent by the Hu family estate for the new year, being raised beside the rear pond. Go herd the ducks. I pointed toward the rear courtyard. What? Jasper's voice cracked in disbelief. You want me to herd ducks? This is a scholar's humiliation, absolute humiliation. Look at yourself, getting angry again. I shook my head, putting on an expression of regret as if the wood was too rotten to carve. Ducks may be lowly creatures, but they also know how to flock. Hundreds of ducks running around chaotically are like scattered soldiers on a battlefield, or like court officials, each with their own selfish schemes. If you can, without using a whip, rely only on a bamboo stick, or even just your aura and commands. Make those hundreds of ducks line up in the character own, or form a proper battle array. Then your military strategy and art of governing people will have truly entered the gate. Jasper stood there with his mouth agape, the book nearly slipping from his hand. As this, the legendary All Things Are Soldiers. He muttered to himself. I suppressed a laugh and nodded. Exactly. When the ducks obey you, then your books will make sense. Go on, don't disturb me. I need to drink tea. Jasper stood rooted to the spot, his expression shifting dramatically. He was hesitating, struggling, torn between scholarly dignity and peerless military strategy. Finally he glanced at his big brother still laboring with the broom, gritted his teeth, and said, "Fine, I'll go see what mysterious principle these ducks actually possess. If you dare trick me, when father returns I will definitely." Alright, go." I waved him away like shooing a chicken. Jasper clutched his book and walked toward the rear courtyard with a tragic hero expression, as if heading to the execution ground rather than herding ducks. The courtyard finally became half peaceful. Jade brought me hot tea and whispered, "Madam, is it really alright to do this? What if the second young master gets pecked by the ducks?" "That's because he hasn't mastered the art." I blew on the tea foam and took a sip. "They're just children. A little exercise is good for them. Better than staying cooped up becoming bookworms." The words had barely left my mouth when chaotic squawking and furious shouting erupted from the rear courtyard. "Line up. I forbid you to run around." "Och! Which one just pecked my butt? This is outrageous. Only women and petty persons." Jade and I looked at each other. Jade couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. I also curled my lips in a smile. These days seemed a little more interesting than I had imagined. Just then a little maid came running in panic. "Madam, it's bad. The third young master has fainted again. No matter how we try we can't get the medicine down him." The teacup in my hand paused. I had almost forgotten there was still the most troublesome little sickling. When I rushed to the western chamber, the room was filled with a bitter medicinal smell that made my head ache. Benny lay on the bed, face as yellow as wax, teeth clenched. On the small table beside him sat a bowl of pitch black medicine. Just looking at it made my tongue feel numb. What happened? I went over and felt his forehead. No fever. Actually a little cold. The old wet nurse attending Benny wiped her tears and said, "The third young master's body has always been frail. He was born with fetal poison. The imperial physician's prescriptions are all strong, bitter tonics. He drinks one mouthful and vomits one mouthful. He hasn't eaten for 2 days. Just now he simply fainted." I picked up the medicine bowl to taste it and nearly choked. It was full of huanglian, cushion, and who knows what animal bile. Not even a 7-year-old child, even a bull would foam at the mouth after drinking this. "Pour this bowl of medicine out," I said disgustedly, handing it to the wet nurse. "Madam, this is life-saving medicine." The wet nurse was shocked. "If we throw it away, what will the third young master do? Drinking it is what will kill him." I looked at the child frowning tightly on the bed. This wasn't illness. It was starvation, compounded by long-term consumption of bitter medicine damaging the stomach key. It would be strange if his body improved. "Go to the kitchen, mince some lean meat into paste, add 2 preserved eggs cut small, plus shredded ginger and scallion. I'll cook a pot of plain congee. Make sure it's cooked until it's soft and mushy." The wet nurse looked troubled. "Preserved eggs, what are those?" "Madam, that's commoner food. How can the young master, a child of gold and jade, eat such things? Am I the mistress or are you?" I raised an eyebrow, putting on the air of an evil stepmother. "I told you to go. Why so much talk?" The wet nurse dared not say another word. She took the medicine bowl and left dejectedly. A short while later, a strange, mouth-watering fragrance filled the kitchen. I personally carried the finished pot of lean meat congee with preserved egg back to the western chamber. I had specially added a drizzle of hot fragrant oil on top. The aroma of rice mingled with the savory smell of meat was enough to awaken anyone's appetite. The person on the bed stirred. Benny slowly opened his eyes. His first reaction was to frown warily at me. "What do you want?" "I won't drink the medicine. I'll tell big brother. Second brother is the one mistreating me." His voice was as weak as a tiny kitten. I set the bowl of congee down beside the bed and stirred it gently with a spoon. "I'm not making you drink medicine. This is my special 100-herb revival congee, specially made to cure all kinds of stubborn illnesses, especially the illness of an empty stomach." Benny sniffed. His little belly let out a loud, embarrassing gurgle. His face immediately flushed red. "I won't eat it," he stubbornly insisted. "You must have poisoned it." "Yes, it's poisoned." I scooped up a spoonful, blew on it to cool it, and brought it to his lips with a smile. "One bite of the laughing half-mad soup, and you'll keep laughing nonstop." "Does it taste good?" Benny stared fixedly at the spoon. The translucent grains of rice wrapped around the minced meat, and the shiny pieces of preserved egg glistened. That savory aroma hooked straight into his nostrils like a fishhook. For a child who had drunk nothing but bitter medicine year-round and whose mouth only knew bitterness, this salty, fragrant flavor was a fatal temptation. In the end he couldn't resist. He opened his mouth and swallowed. The kanji melted the moment it touched his tongue, perfectly balanced in saltiness and sweetness. A warm current immediately slid down his throat into his stomach. Benny's eyes suddenly lit up like two black grapes. "I want more," he said unconsciously. I smiled and fed him another spoonful. "Eat slowly. There's still plenty." One full bowl went down. Benny's face finally gained a little color, and a fine layer of sweat appeared on his forehead. He leaned against the headboard and looked at me with complicated eyes. Half guarded, half openly dependent. "Does it taste good?" I asked. He turned his face away and snorted. "It's just average. Only a little better than that watery rice gruel from before." That proud little express was exactly like his two older brothers. Just then, heavy footsteps and the sound of splashing mud came from outside the door. Leo burst in carrying the broom, covered in dirt from head to toe, but his spirit was high. "Third brother, how are you? I heard you fainted again." Right behind him came Jasper, his clothes covered in duck feathers and a piece of straw stuck in his hair, looking utterly disheveled. Yet he also rushed in anxiously. "Third brother, did that wicked woman feed you something strange?" "The wicked woman is right here holding an empty bowl." I smiled at them. Benny looked at me, then at his two brothers. Suddenly he pointed at the empty bowl and said, "Big brother, this kanji is magical." After I finished it, my whole body felt warm and I didn't feel nauseous anymore. Leo and Jasper were stunned. Leo sniffed. "What kanji smells this good?" I didn't stand on ceremony. I pointed at the large pot on the table. "There's still more than half a pot left. If you're hungry, help yourselves. Sweeping the courtyard and herding ducks must have used up a lot of energy, right?" Leo swallowed hard. He really was starving. Sweeping all morning had been more exercise than his usual sword practice. Jasper hesitated but still tried to maintain his scholarly dignity. "Stop talking nonsense. Are you eating or not? If not, I'll throw it to the dogs." I pretended to reach for the pot. Leo was quick. He snatched the spoon, ladled himself a large bowl, and without caring if it was hot, took a big gulp. His eyes immediately widened. "Delicious. There's actually a stream of warm ki hidden in this kanji rushing straight to my danchin. That's just the heat from the hot kanji burning you, you silly boy." When Jasper saw his big brother eating so happily, he stopped caring about etiquette. He lapped a bowl, took a sip, and his expression changed dramatically. The preserved egg and lean meat inside, one black, one white, one yin, one yang, harmonized perfectly in the mouth. Could this be the principle of yin-yang balance? I stood there feeling bored. "It's just lean meat kanji with preserved egg, not some tai chi 8 trigrams soup." The three brothers gathered around the table and cleaned out the entire pot. The atmosphere in the room strangely became harmonious. Leo put down his bowl. His gaze toward me had completely changed. He solemnly placed the large broom beside him, cupped his hands and said, "Mother, today while sweeping the courtyard I discovered that using too much force makes the dust fly everywhere. But if I follow the wind and sweep lightly, the effect is twice as good. Is this what you meant by heavy when needed, light when appropriate?" I was momentarily stunned. He actually realized that. I had no choice but to pretend to be profound and nod. "You can be taught." Jasper wiped his mouth, his face serious as he pondered. "Today while herding ducks I discovered that if I forcefully chase them, the flock scatters even more. But if I scatter a handful of grain ahead or lead the lead duck, the rest will follow. This is guiding through self-motivation." I nearly burst out laughing. Guiding through self-motivation. "You figured that out too? Since you've realized it, keep practicing." I stood up and stretched. "I'm going to sleep. Don't call me for dinner unless there's braised pork belly." I strolled out of the room. Behind me came the sound of the three brothers whispering. "Big brother, this stepmother seems to have some real talent. Not just talent, she's unfathomably deep." Leo's voice was full of awe. "That broom looks ordinary, but it's actually made of black iron wood and weighs 30 catties. I only realized it after sweeping all morning." "Third brother, what do you think?" "I think the person who cooked the kanji is really good." Benny's soft voice rang out. Once outside the courtyard gate, I couldn't help glancing at the corner of the wall. "Is that broom really black iron wood?" I turned and asked Jade. "Where did that broom come from?" Jade looked confused. It's just the big broom Auntie Zhang in the back kitchen uses to sweep the yard. It cost 2 coins. I realized these children's ability to overthink was even stronger than I had imagined. But that was fine. If they all saw me as some transcendent expert, then these days I could openly be even lazier, right? I imagined my beautiful lazy future and couldn't help laughing out loud. However, what I didn't know was that at this very moment, thousands of miles away in the great army camp, Victor had just won a battle and received a carrier pigeon message. It was a secret report from the hidden guards in the manor. Victor looked at the content, his brows tightly dated, his expression grave. The secret report read, "On the first day the new madam entered the manor, the eldest young master abandoned his sword to sweep the courtyard and claimed he had comprehended the Tao. The second young master abandoned his books to herd ducks and study battle formations. The third young master stopped taking medicine and drank congee instead. His condition has improved. The madam spends all day sleeping and calls it practicing laziness." Practicing laziness. Victor muttered the unfamiliar phrase, a flash of doubt and probing in his eyes. Just who is this Sophia? The days in the Hu Manor remained peaceful for only a few more days before trouble came knocking. Or rather, for someone like me who only sought fun, this wasn't trouble, it was an opportunity. That noon, I was lying near the old locust tree in the courtyard, a round fan covering my face, enjoying the early, summer breeze. Jade was peeling grapes for me beside me. The purple skins were peeled away, revealing the translucent, sparkling flesh. Popping one into my mouth, it was sweet all the way to my heart. "Madam, these days are good, but this servant's heart is always uneasy," Jade whispered. "The eldest young master has gone mad sweeping the courtyard these past few days. He even fights with the servants for their chores. The second young master is worse, he spends all day in the duck pen, covered in duck droppings. Just now the steward reported that the second young master is standing in front of the ducks reciting military strategy. The third young master is a bit better. His body has grown much stronger, but every day he clings to this servant begging for something called cola chicken wings." "I've never even heard of that," I mumbled while chewing. "Isn't this very good? Everyone has their own task, things are used to their fullest. And I'm not idle either. I'm using mental power to guard the household." Jade sighed helplessly. Just then, a commotion came from the front courtyard. Immediately afterward, a sharp, harsh female voice pierced through the walls and stabbed straight into my ears. "Is this the Hu Manor? Why is there no order at all? The main gate is wide open, and there's not even a gatekeeper in sight." I lifted the fan from my face, narrowed my eyes, and looked out. A group of people swaggered in. Leading them was an old wet nurse dressed in dark purple, with high cheekbones and a drooping mouth full of horizontal flesh. One glance and you knew she was the classic villainous matron who wouldn't survive 3 episodes in a palace drama, or a minor monster specially sent to give experience points. Behind her followed 4 stout, rough-looking women carrying rulers and ropes, looking fierce. "Who are you?" Jade was so frightened the grape in her hand fell. She instinctively stepped in front of me. The old wet nurse gave Jade a sideways glance and snorted coldly. "Where did this wild little girl come from? She doesn't understand any rules. This old body is the number 1 manager of the Grand Tutor Wei's mansion. People call me Madame Grimm. By the Grand Tutor's order, I have come specially to teach proper rules to the Hu Manor." Grand Tutor Wei's mansion. My brain worked for a second. Oh right, my nominal husband Victor is a descendant of loyal ministers from the previous dynasty. He's a thorn in the current emperor's side and even more so the great threat to Grand Tutor Wei, who currently holds absolute power in court. I heard the Grand Tutor had always wanted to find a chance to kill these 3 children. Unexpectedly, this time he sent a matron to test the waters first. This was clearly here to pick a fight. Wonderful. Inside I was overjoyed, but on the surface I remained lazily indifferent, not even bothering to stand up. I simply shifted to a more comfortable lying position. "Oh, Madame Grimm, is it? The Grand Tutor's mansion really has a wide reach, doesn't it? You even want to stick your foot into someone else's rear courtyard." Madame Grimm clearly hadn't expected this reaction from me. In her calculations, a wild village woman like me should have been so frightened by people from the Grand Tutor's mansion that I would kneel and beg for mercy. Her face darkened. The ruler in her hand smacked loudly onto the stone table. "This old body is carrying out orders. I have long heard that General Victor married a wild village woman who knows no etiquette. Meeting her today truly lives up to the rumors. As the head mistress of the house, not only do you fail to support your husband and educate the children, you even sleep openly in broad daylight. No, not right. Sleeping in broad daylight with disheveled clothes. What kind of appearance is this? I looked down at myself. My clothes were perfectly neat, I simply wasn't wearing those heavy hairpins that could kill someone. So what does Madame want? I yawned. If you feel my virtue is unworthy of this position, why don't you kindly write a divorce letter for me to send to the general? I'll pack my bags and leave immediately. I absolutely will not delay the general from marrying another virtuous wife. Madame Grimm choked. In her entire life she probably had never seen a mistress actively beg to be divorced. We'll talk about the divorce letter later. Madame Grimm's anger turned to rage. Since you have entered the Hu Manor, you must follow the Hu Manor's rules. Today this old body will re-establish proper order in this manor on behalf of the general. Someone, drag this woman who doesn't know the height of heaven and depth of earth down, and give her 200 lashes so she remembers for life. The horizontal flesh on her body jiggled with every movement. The 4 women behind her immediately rolled up their sleeves and surrounded me. Jade screamed in terror. Madam, run. They really dare to hit people. Run where? And if I ran, how could I continue acting out? Evil stepmother enduring humiliation. Script. I was still hoping they would beat me. Then I could conveniently lie on the bed pretending to be dead and force Victor to divorce me. I closed my eyes and struck a pose. Come on, hit me. I'll bravely sacrifice myself. But the expected cane did not fall. Instead I heard a whoosh of wind, followed by 2 heavy thuds and the miserable screams of the women. Ouch! My back! Who hit me? I opened my eyes. The 2 women who had just charged forward were now rolling on the ground in a heap. Standing in front of them was a youth in black, Leo, holding that huge fluffy broom as if it were a peerless treasured sword. His eyes were cold as ice. He stared fixedly at Madame Grimm. I'd like to see who dares touch her. The youth's voice was not loud, yet it carried an aura of killing intent. Still immature but already showing its sharp edge. Madame Grimm jumped in fright and retreated 2 steps. She pointed at Leo and cursed. Rebellion. Rebellion. This is the eldest young master of the Hu family, isn't it? He actually dares to raise a hand against his elders. Sure enough, wild seeds with no mother to teach them. What did you say? Leo's eyes instantly became terrifying. The broom in his hand trembled slightly. Did this old body say anything wrong? Madame Grimm, relying on numbers, kept shouting. The 3 brats of the Hu family were already raised to be useless long ago. One only knows how to sweep the courtyard like a servant, one plays with ducks like an idiot, and one is a dying little ghost. The Grand Tutor kindly sent me to instruct you, yet instead of being grateful you dare to act violently. Someone, tie up this little beast who doesn't know life from death and beat him for me. The other 2 women plus the 2 who had just crawled up. 4 burly women with thick waists and broad shoulders charged together, swinging ropes and clubs, intending to overpower Leo with sheer size. Leo didn't move. He stood in place, took a deep breath, as if recalling something. My heart tightened. These 2 kids weren't really going to fight head on, were they? He was only 15, facing 4 women who do heavy labor year, round with bulging muscles. Leo, a real man doesn't eat immediate losses. Run. I couldn't help shouting. Leo turned his head and gave me a strangely calm look. Mother, you once said that if there is no sword in the heart, then the broom is the sword. Follow the momentum. Heavy when needed, light when appropriate. Today I will test it on them. Test it, with the broom. Before I could react, Leo moved. He advanced instead of retreating. The large broom in his hand did not swing wildly like a club. Instead, like sweeping the courtyard, it drew a strange arc along the ground. Whoosh! The broom head carried a gust of wind and accurately swept the first woman's ankle. She felt her feet go light, as if she had stepped on a banana peel, and flew out, landing flat on her back. Next, Leo twisted his wrist. The broom handle shot out like a snake striking, lightly tapping the tendon point on another woman's wrist. The club in her hand instantly dropped. She clutched her wrist and screamed in pain. The whole series of movements flowed like water, without the slightest flourish, looking exactly like sweeping the floor. I was stunned. Was this really swordsmanship learned from sweeping the courtyard? Or had this child always been a martial genius? Madame Grimm was also dumbfounded. She never expected the legendary Hu's eldest young master to be so difficult. Her eyes darted, landing on Benny, who was being pushed out in his wheelchair behind me. No, catch that little one. Madame Grimm shouted and personally charged toward Benny. This was the classic. Capture the emperor to control the vassals. Move. Despicable. Leo was entangled by the other two women and couldn't break free for the moment. Madame Grimm's fan-sized hand was about to grab Benny's thin neck. Stop. I instinctively wanted to rush over, but with my body I would only be delivering myself. In that split second, a cold voice rang out. Along with the voice came a white goose. No, a huge white goose suddenly fell from the sky, flapping its wings like a fighter jet in fury. It pecked fiercely at Madame Grimm's backside. Aish! Madame Grimm let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered. She clutched her bottom and jumped up. Immediately afterward, flocks of ducks poured out from the rear courtyard. Though noisy, they were surprisingly orderly, like a well-trained army. They quickly surrounded Madame Grimm and the women. Jasper stood behind the flock holding a slender bamboo stick, his robes fluttering like a general commanding thousands of troops. Change formation. Round encirclement formation. Jasper waved the bamboo stick. The ducks actually understood the command. They quacked loudly and tightened the circle. Countless flat beaks aimed at the women's legs and pecked wildly. The scene was extremely chaotic and smelled terrible. What kind of sorcery is this? Madame Grimm jumped around on the ground trying to dodge the goose's bomb attacks. She looked utterly miserable. This is the heaven, encompassing earth, net-tightening formation. Jasper explained with a serious face. Mother taught me that all things are soldiers. Today I will let you taste the power of my duck army. I stood to one side watching this bizarre scene and felt my entire worldview collapse. Broom swordsmanship. Duck battle formations. What exactly had these two kids overthought into existence? Leo seized the chance to break free. He took a few strides to shield Benny behind him. Benny's face was pale, but his eyes sparkled with excitement. Big brother, second brother are so awesome. Beat this old witch to death. Madame Grimm saw the situation turning bad. These three brats were too weird, she screamed. Run. Quickly report back to the Grand Tutor. She led the women, faces swollen and miserable, out of the duck encirclement and fled the manor in a tumble. The courtyard finally quieted down, leaving only a mess of feathers and several piles of duck droppings. The three brothers looked at each other, then all turned to me at the same time. Their eyes were filled with worship, fear, and a kind of fervent zeal as if they had finally found their organization. Mother. Lee knelt on one knee. The broom in his hand slammed to the ground. If not for the divine skill Mother taught, this child would not have been able to protect my younger brothers today. This great kindness, this child will engrave in his bones and heart. Jasper also came forward and bowed deeply. So this is the true meaning of military strategy. Using the weak to defeat the strong, striking where unexpected. Only today does this child truly feel he has entered the gate. Benny clapped from his wheelchair. Mother is the most powerful. That big goose was a hidden troop Mother specially arranged, right? I don't have. I wanted to explain. The broom sweeping was really just to make him do chores. The duck herding was really just because he was too noisy. That big goose was probably just hungry, but looking at those three pairs of shining eyes, the words died in my throat. Never mind, they wouldn't believe me anyway. And if I said I got lucky, would they feel I was insulting their intelligence and get angry enough to kill me? To preserve my life, I decided to keep pretending. Ahem. I cleared my throat, trying to maintain the aura of an expert. It's good that you know the power. Since you've driven away the villains, continue your training. Right, sweep up the duck droppings on the ground. Ugh, it stinks to death. With that, I fled back to my room. These days are impossible to live through anymore. I just wanted to be lazy. How did I end up becoming a peerless master instead? Although we had driven away Madame Grimm, the sense of crisis in my heart grew heavier. If the Grand Tutor had already sent someone to test the waters, it meant his killing intent toward the last three seedlings of the Hu family had awakened. This time it was Madame Grimm. Next time, would he send assassins directly? Although these three nominal children had somehow trained some bizarre skills, against real professional assassins they were still not enough. I had to find a way to make Victor return quickly or divorce me quickly. But these three brats now worship me to the point of prostrating themselves. If I suggested divorce now, they would probably think I was protecting them and not wanting to implicate them, then cling to my thigh crying even harder. This script was getting more and more off track. To verify my guess, early the next morning Leo proactively ran up to me, his face full of expectation as he asked, Mother, in yesterday's battle this child discovered that the sweeping heaven army move, though powerful, easily reveals openings. I wonder if Mother has any more exquisite techniques. I was drinking kanji and nearly spat it out. Sweeping heaven army. Was that a name you made up yourself? Wes. Leo's eyes burned with fervor. This child realized it while sweeping the fallen leaves. I sighed, pointed at the leaves above our heads. Look at that leaf. When it falls, does it fall straight down? Leo looked up. A leaf drifted and spiraled down. No, it drifts and swirls. Exactly. I began making things up again. If the leaf drifts and swirls, then when you sweep the courtyard, why must you always go straight back and forth? You must follow its trajectory, like silkworm silk wrapping around. Coil it inside. This is called spider, silk force. Actually, I just wanted him to sweep more gently so the dust wouldn't be so bad and choke my nose. Leo looked as if he had found a treasure. His eyes shone like headlights. Spider, silk force, using softness to overcome hardness, continuous and unbroken. Many thanks for Mother's guidance. With that, he grabbed the broom again and ran off to destroy the courtyard once more. I glanced at Jasper, who was lost in thought on the other side, then at Benny obediently eating his upgraded version of lean meat congee with preserved egg, now fish congee, and felt this house was completely beyond saving. Just then Jade came running in panic. Madam, it's bad. The eldest young master seems to have killed someone. I jumped up. The bowl in my hand shook. What, killed someone? Not dead yet, only almost dead. Jade spoke in a jumble. Just now someone was secretly peeking over the wall. The eldest young master thought it was an assassin, and swept the broom over. That person got smashed flat against the wall and we can't pry him off. My face darkened. This time we wouldn't even need the Grand Tutor to act. We were heading straight to prison. I hurried to the scene of the crime. A crowd of servants had gathered under the wall, pointing and talking. On the wall a human-shaped object was embedded in a twisted pose inside the crack, like a mosquito smashed flat. Leo stood below holding the broom, face cold. Which rat from where dares to spy on the Who manor? I went over and took one look. Though the man's face was swollen, I could still vaguely recognize he was a martial artist. In his hand he held a poisoned flying dagger. Sure enough, an assassin, and from his clothes, not an ordinary bandit but a professional killer. He's not dead. Leo stepped forward to check the man's breath. Mother, this fellow's inner force is not weak, if not for this black iron broom of mine helping, plus the spider silk force Mother just taught, I'm afraid I couldn't have pinned him. The corner of my mouth twitched. Black iron broom. It was just an ordinary broom. Look, half the bamboo twigs were already poking out. How did you do it? I couldn't help asking. Leo demonstrated. Just now when he poked his head over the wall, this child was practicing the crucial point of spider silk force, so I swept the broom naturally. The twigs on the broom head were like thousands of silk threads, instantly wrapping around his weapon, then borrowing force to strike force, smashing him flat against the wall in one move. This move combines the fierceness of sweeping heaven army with the softness of spider silk force. It can be called perfect. I looked at the deep human-shaped dent in the wall, then at the still, sturdy broom in Leo's hand even though the twigs were poking out, and fell into thought. Could there really be heart-based martial arts in this world? As long as you believe, even a broom can become the dragon saber. Report it to the authorities. I waved my hand weakly. Say we caught a thief. We cannot report it. Jasper appeared from who knows where, still holding a duck feather as a fan and waving it. Mother, this man is obviously a death warrior sent by the Grand Tutor. If we report him, the Grand Tutor will bite back and say we killed an innocent or privately set up a court, and will be in even more trouble. He made a throat-slitting gesture, his eyes sinister, nothing like a bookish scholar. I jumped. You're so young, don't be so violent. We are law-abiding citizens. Second brother is right. Leo nodded. Keeping someone like this is a disaster. Besides, he has seen my martial arts. If he goes back to report, what martial arts do I have? I almost blurted out. Stuff him in the cellar for me. I decided on the spot. Starve him for 3 days first and see if we can get anything out of him. Remember, don't let him die. He's a witness. Leo and Jasper looked at each other and said in unison, Mother is wise. Wise my foot. I was just afraid that if we caused a death it would be hard to clean up. After dealing with this small matter, I returned to my room, my heart still pounding. Could that broom really kill someone? It seemed Leo had truly mastered it. Although the process was a bit bizarre, the result was good. At least they now had some ability to protect themselves. It was just that this misunderstanding about the black iron broom would probably never be cleared up in this lifetime. That evening I was worrying in my room when suddenly I heard Leo's lowered voice outside the window. Second brother, today I tested the spider silk force mother taught. Its power is truly shocking, but this broom is after all only a common object. If we meet a divine weapon, I'm afraid it will be hard to withstand. Big brother is overthinking. Jasper's voice came. Since mother let you use a broom, she must have deep meaning. Think about it. A broom is the cleanest, purest thing. It can sweep away all the dust of the mortal world. Mother is telling you not to be bound by the form of the weapon. You must reach the realm where grass, wood, bamboo, or stone can all become swords. That is the highest realm of the sword path. So that's it. I understand now. Leo had a sudden realization. Mother is tempering my state of mind. When I can use a single blade of grass to cut through refined steel, that will be the day my divine skill reaches great completion. I covered my face and groaned in pain. Please kids, stop overthinking, okay? I really just wanted you to sweep the courtyard. The Grand Tutor's revenge came faster than I imagined, and much more despicably. If open attack didn't work and assassination was smashed against the wall, that treacherous old Grand Tutor changed tactics. 3 days later, trouble struck at the Hu family estate outside the city. The old steward in charge of the estate came running back crying. Madam, it's bad. A gang of local thugs broke into the estate, saying we occupied their land. They're smashing and robbing everything. The workers in the estate have all been beaten, and they're threatening to set the place on fire. I frowned. This Grand Tutor really lowers himself, resorting to thug tactics. Have you reported it to the authorities? Wu did, but the constables from the Yemen only stood there watching the show. They wouldn't intervene at all. The steward cried miserably. Those thugs said someone powerful is backing them. The Yemen doesn't dare touch them. It's obvious what's going on. Officials and bandits working together. Take me to see. I stood up. This estate was the main source of income for the Hu Manor. If it was destroyed, where would I get my alimony? No, my farewell money. From. I'm coming too. Leo grabbed his broom and charged out. Me too, Jasper followed, still holding his duck, herding bamboo stick. No. I blocked them. This is a group fight, not playing house. Those thugs don't hold back when they hit. You're still children? Mother. Leo cut me off. A man of the Hu family cannot cower behind a woman. Besides, it's a good chance to practice our hands. Jasper also nodded. Mother, rest assured, I've brought my troops, his troops. I looked behind him and saw dozens of servants, each holding 2 ducks in their arms, plus several fierce white geese ready to set off. Fine. If you kids want to go crazy, I'll go crazy with you once. When we arrived at the estate, it was a scene of chaos. Dozens of local thugs holding clubs had the farm surrounded so tightly not even a drop of water could leak through. Leading them was a scarred, meaty-faced man stepping on a worker's head, laughing arrogantly. The Hu family without Victor is nothing but a fart. Be smart and hand over the land deed, otherwise today I'll flatten this estate. I stepped forward, trying to look dignified. In broad daylight under a clear sky, do you people still have any royal law? The scared man's eyes lit up when he saw me. He whistled. Oh, this must be the new general's wife. She looks quite presentable. What's wrong? Is General Hu not home and you're lonely? Why don't we brothers keep you company and have some fun? The surrounding thugs burst into lewd laughter. Killing intent exploded in Leo's eyes. He was about to act when Jasper stopped him. Big brother, why use a bull's knife to kill a chicken? Leave these small fries to my Divine Machine Battalion. Jasper laughed coldly and waved his bamboo stick. Divine Machine Battalion, form up. The servants immediately let go. Hundreds of ducks and a dozen huge white geese surged out like a broken dam. The thugs were stunned for a second, then roared with laughter. Haha, why? Ha. The Hu family has run out of people. Sending ducks to fight. I'm going to laugh myself to death. But the next second they couldn't laugh anymore. The ducks didn't run chaotically. Under the rhythmic command of Jasper's bamboo stick, they quickly split into several battle formations. Left and right encirclement, pecking at the lower 3 roads, Jasper shouted loudly. The ducks seemed to understand human speech. They split into 2 paths, quickly circling to the flanks of the thugs, and pecking wildly at their ankles and calves. Duck beaks aren't as sharp as eagles, but hundreds pecking at once still hurts like hell. Ayo, it hurts to death. Why do these ducks only peck the fleshy parts? The thugs fell into chaos. They wanted to swing their clubs, but the ducks were small, low, and agile. As soon as they bent down, the ducks slipped under their crotches. Then the screams became even more miserable. White Goose Sudden Strike Team, suppress from the air. Jasper gave another order. The dozen huge, sturdy white geese spread their wings, flapping loudly as they took off. Though they didn't fly high, it was enough. They launched suicidal charges at the thugs' faces and heads. The fighting power of geese is the overlord of the countryside. Even dogs are afraid. Their long necks stretched and retracted like whips with hooks, viciously tearing at the thugs' flesh, leaving purple bruises with every bite. My eyes were saved by these geese turning into spirits. The thugs completely collapsed. Their clubs couldn't be used at all. Instead, they hit their own people while jostling. Plus, the ground was covered in duck and goose droppings, making it extremely slippery. One by one, they fell flat on their backs. The scarred man suffered the worst. 3 big white geese gave him special attention. 1 riding on his head, pecking his scalp, 2 biting his ears and refusing to let go. He swung his big knife wanting to chop, but his feet slipped and he planted face first into the stinking ditch beside him. Jasper stood high, facing the wind, truly possessing the air of a feather, fan silk scarf strategist who destroys strong enemies while chatting and laughing. Do not pursue exhausted enemies. Change formation. Single, line long snake formation, block the retreat. The ducks quickly changed formation, lining up to block the estate gate, quacking with the momentum of a roaring tide. The thugs who had just struggled to their feet saw the defensive line formed by the ducks and actually felt the terror of facing thousands of troops. Spare us. Madam, spare us. Young masters, spare us. The scarred man crawled out of the stinking ditch, his head covered in mud, and kowtowed like pounding garlic. This lowly one has eyes but failed to see Mount Tai. I will never dare again. I stood beside Jade watching this both hilarious and shocking scene, even forgetting to chew the melon seeds in my hand. As this the legendary Divine Machine Battalion. Jasper walked over and smiled at me. In that smile was a teenager's pride and a desire to show off his achievement to me. Mother, does this child's method of all things are soldiers pass your eyes? I swallowed hard and gave a thumbs up. High. Truly too high. I think you shouldn't take the Imperial exam for top scholar anymore. Go straight for military Grand Marshal. Jasper modestly waved his hand. Not at all, not at all. It's all thanks to Mother's excellent teaching method. Without Mother's enlightenment that day, this child would still be memorizing dead books. How could I have understood the way of governing the world between heaven and earth? What could I say? I could only keep smiling. After this battle, the fame of the 3 young masters of the Hu family spread completely. Of course, the versions of the rumors were a bit fantastical. Some said the second young master of the Hu family knew sorcery and could summon divine duck beasts by scattering beans. Some said the Hu madam was a beast, taming grandmaster who cared nothing for worldly affairs. In short, after this battle, the security around the Hu manor became better than ever. Even stray dogs didn't dare walk past the gate, afraid of being drafted into the Divine Machine Battalion. The days passed in the children's self, overthinking and my forced laziness, flowing smoothly and colorfully, until the sudden return of that man. It was a dusk at the beginning of autumn. The setting sun was blood red. I was sunbathing in the courtyard, a copy of Woman's Virtues, placed upside down on my face to block the sun. I had never read this book. It was purely because its size was just right and its thickness perfect for sun blocking. Leo was in the east courtyard practicing the 7th move of broom swordsmanship. Fallen leaves all over the yard were swept by him into a Tai Chi diagram. Jasper in the west courtyard held several small flags, commanding a flock of newly hatched yellow ducklings through a maze. Benny sat in his wheelchair eating a meat-stuffed pancake I made, grease all over his mouth. While eating, he cheered for his big brothers. The whole scene was warm and harmonious, yet thick with the breath of madness. Just then, a silent black shadow flipped over the wall and landed on the old locust tree branch. Victor had returned to capital in secret this time. The front line had won a great victory. He originally planned to give his new wife and the children a surprise, while secretly investigating what this practicing laziness, mentioned in the previous secret report, was all about. He squatted on the wall for a long time. The more he watched, the darker his face became. Was this the Sioux family daughter said to be virtuous and gentle? Was this the stepmother who had promised to take good care of his children? What did she see? She saw his eldest son, who should be sweating on the training ground, now acting like a servant sweeping the courtyard. His second son, who should be bitterly reading the sage's books in the study, now acts like an old farmer playing with ducks. His third son, who should be quietly recuperating and taking medicine, is now eating that greasy, crude food, and the culprit, Sophia, was actually sleeping with a copy of Women's Virtues, covering her face. This was truly the greatest mockery. Victor felt a surge of rage shooting straight to the top of his head. The Hu family, loyal and righteous for generations, was going to be destroyed in the hands of this lazy, useless woman, Sophia. A furious roar like thunder exploded across the courtyard. I was so startled my whole body shook. The book of Women's Virtues fell from my face. I opened my eyes in a daze. Against the setting sun I saw a tall figure jump down from the tree, like a black-faced death god standing before me. General Victor. I tried calling out. This was my nominal husband. Why had he returned now? Didn't they say it would be another half-month? General Victor, please listen to my explanation, I said hastily. Actually, I didn't do anything at all. I was just letting them experience life a little. Experience life. Victor laughed from extreme anger. What a wonderful way to experience life. Are you treating them as servants to order around? He turned his head and looked at Leo with heart-wrenching pain. Leo, you are the eldest son of the Hu family. How can you degrade yourself like this? Put that broom down for me. Leo was stunned. His hand gripped the broom tightly. Adoptive father, you're back. But this broom, Victor roared. Put it down. Leo unconsciously let go. The broom clattered to the ground. Victor looked toward Jasper. Jasper, you are truly a disgrace to the scholarly world. Hurry up and chase those beasts away. Jasper's face was full of grievance. Adoptive father, these are not beasts. These are my troops. How dare you talk back? Victor felt he was about to explode. Finally he looked at Benny. Seeing the grease around the child's mouth, his heart ached even more. Benny, how can you eat such things? Your body. Benny was so scared he hid the remaining half pancake behind his back. Victor took a deep breath, turned back to me. The disappointment and disgust in his eyes were completely unconcealed. Sophia, I originally thought that since the Su family values honor and keeps promises, their daughter would surely be literate and proper. I never expected you to be so worthless. If you have no heart to care for the children of the Huo family, then this small Hu manor cannot contain a great Buddha like you. When I heard those words, it was like hearing heavenly music. Did the general mean he wanted to divorce me? I suppressed the excitement in my heart and tried to make my tone sound a little tragic. If the general has spoken like this, then this humble wife has nothing more to say. I only beg the general to grant me a divorce letter and let me go home. Quick, write it. I have already prepared brush ink, paper, and inkstone for you. Victor looked at my fake pained expression that was actually full of eagerness and grew even angrier. Fine. Since you are begging to leave, I will fulfill your wish. With that, he turned toward the study to write the divorce letter. At that moment, 3 figures suddenly blocked his way. Adoptive father. You cannot. Leo was the first to rush forward. He picked up the broom from the ground and held it in front of his chest with a determined face. Mother has never mistreated us. You have misunderstood. That's right, adoptive father. Jasper also threw aside his bamboo stick and spread his arms to block the path. Mother is teaching us peerless knowledge. You cannot divorce her. Father, don't drive mother away. Benny pushed his wheelchair forward, hugged Victor's leg, eyes brimming with tears. Mother cooks the best food. I don't want mother to leave. Victor froze. I also froze. No, the script wasn't supposed to go like this. Shouldn't you 3 be crying and accusing me of my crimes? What are you doing? Repaying kindness with enmity. Victor looked at the 3 children, his face full of disbelief. Mother. What has this woman fed you? Love potion or hallucinogen? Leo straightened his back, eyes firm. Adoptive father. You only saw me sweeping the courtyard, but you don't know that hidden inside that sweeping is the true principle of swordsmanship. Heavy when needed, light when appropriate. If not for mother's guidance, this child would still be wandering outside the gate. Jasper also spoke loudly. Adoptive father. You only saw me herding ducks, but you don't know that hidden inside that flock of ducks is military strategy and battle formations. Mother taught me that all things are soldiers, and this child has benefited greatly. Benny wiped his tears. Before, whenever I took medicine I wanted to die. It was mother who cooked congee and meals for me. Now I feel strength all over my body. Mother is the best person in the world. Victor listened to this extreme nonsense and felt his whole mind in chaos. Sword path, military strategy, divine healer. Was this really about the woman who only knew how to sleep and sunbathe? He turned his head and looked at me with complicated eyes. I shrugged innocently. General, actually everything they said is true. I really am an expert. Do you believe me? Victor looked at my face that was about to split from trying not to laugh, and screamed inside. It's over. This divorce letter is probably never going to be written. The scene became extremely awkward. Victor stood in the middle of the courtyard, surrounded by the 3 children, his head buzzing. He looked at the ragged broom, then at the ducks still quacking, and finally locked his gaze on me. That look was no longer pure anger, but full of probing, doubt, and a sharpness that wanted to see through me. Madame Sue. Victor spoke in a low voice. His tone had softened a little but still carried authority. Since the children have pleaded for you, I will give you one chance to explain. What exactly is the mystery behind this sweeping the courtyard? My heart was bitter. I wanted to explain that I was lazy, that I was just dealing with them. But looking at Leo's eyes full of trust and worship, if I told the truth, would this child collapse on the spot? For the sake of the children's mental health, I could only grit my teeth and continue the act. Since the general has asked, this humble wife will not hide it anymore. I sighed, putting on the lonely air of one standing at the peak where it is always cold. I slowly walked to Leo's side and picked up the broom. General, watch this. I will casually demonstrate a sword flourish. Actually, it was just the broom, twirling skill I learned from cleaning duty back in school. It looked flashy. Victor's eyes narrowed. As a martial arts master, he could tell the moment I moved whether it was real or fake. Although I had no inner force, the flexibility and wrist control were truly not like those of an ordinary boudoir woman. Sweeping the courtyard looks simple, but it actually tests one's state of mind and control. Dust flies everywhere if you use too much force. If you use too little, you can't sweep it clean. The grasp of force is exactly like using a sword. Only when hard and soft are in harmony is it the great Tao. Leo's temperament is hot-tempered. His sword follows a rigid path. If he forces sword practice, excessive hardness will damage his foundation. I had him sweep the courtyard to temper his temperament and train his dexterity. Victor's brows furrowed slightly, as if considering the feasibility of these words. As a great martial artist, he could not deny that this theory actually made terrifying sense. Then what about the ducks? He pointed at Jasper. One marching and fighting, what does the general value most? I asked in return. Strict orders and prohibitions, deploying troops and forming battle arrays. Ducks may be stupid, but if you can command hundreds of stupid ducks as easily as moving your fingers, then commanding thousands of troops is nothing difficult. Jasper only knew how to memorize dead books and didn't understand flexibility. I had him face these uncontrollable living things so he could understand that on the battlefield, where everything changes, only by adapting to circumstances can one win. Victor looked at Jasper. Jasper immediately cooperated, waving his bamboo stick. The duck flock instantly changed formation. It was a little chaotic, but the general idea was there. Victor's eyes changed. This indeed required extremely strong observation and command ability. Then, what about Benny's illness? His tone had softened by 70%. Medicine has 3 parts poison, I said indifferently. Benny's body is weak and empty. Strong tonics only deplete his vitality even more. I used the method of food supplementation to strengthen the root and nourish the origin, making him happy in spirit. When he has appetite, his body naturally improves. General, haven't you noticed that Benny's complexion is much rosier than before? Benny immediately jumped down from the wheelchair and spun around. Father, look! I can walk now. At that moment, the defensive line in Victor's heart completely collapsed. He looked at me, the suspicion in his eyes gradually disappeared, replaced by deep guilt and shock. So I was the one who was shallow. So this new madam is not lazy and useless but deeply hidden talent. She is using the great wisdom that appears foolish to teach according to each child's talent. She has been painstakingly trying to save these 3 worthless Huo children, and just now I even wanted to divorce her. Victor, oh Victor, you are truly a bastard. Madam. Victor's voice trembled slightly. He stepped forward and bowed deeply to me. It was Victor who was rude and wronged Madam. Madam is magnanimous. Victor is deeply ashamed. I was so scared I stepped back. Don't be ashamed. You should still divorce me. Madam, you are too kind. I smiled awkwardly. Actually, I'm not that great. I really want to leave. Madam, say no more. Victor cut me off. His eyes burned. I know Madam has suffered. The Su family marrying you into the Hu family was already an injustice to you. For the sake of educating these worthless children, you did not hesitate to ruin your own reputation by pretending to be lazy. This bitterness, this endurance, truly moves Victor. It's over. He has completely overthought everything. Actually, the divorce letter. I took out a letter I had written long ago from my sleeve. I already wrote it. The general only needs to sign. Victor's face changed dramatically when he saw the divorce letter. He snatched it, didn't even look, and tore it with a rip into pieces. The scraps of paper fell like snowflakes. My heart broke along with them. Madam, do not speak angry words again. Victor's face was serious. From today onward, whoever dares mention the two words divorce wife, Victor, will be the first to disagree. Madam is the benefactor of the entire Hu family and the only wife of Victor. Leo, Jasper, and Benny cheered from the side. Wonderful. Father is wise. I looked at this harmonious, happy family of four and wanted to cry without tears. This really is the stick hitting one's own back. After the misunderstanding was resolved, Victor's gaze toward me became more and more wrong. It was a mixture of worship, doting, probing, and self-overthinking. He no longer stayed in the study but stuck to the main chamber. Although I stubbornly made him sleep in the side room, he had no complaints. Instead he wore an expression that said, Madam, this is testing my endurance. To prove I really was an expert, Victor began a series of tests. That night the moon was bright and the wind gentle. I had just lain down when I heard the clash of weapons in the courtyard. I put on a robe, got up, and looked through the window crack. Victor was holding a wooden sword, sparring with Leo. Leo still held that fluffy broom. Adoptive father, be careful. Leo shouted softly. The broom swept up. The sweeping heaven army move carried a whistling wind toward Victor's lower body. Victor's eyes flashed with admiration. The wooden sword lightly pointed to block, but the moment the broom and sword touched, Leo's wrist trembled. The initial fierce force instantly became supple and endless. The twigs on the broom head came alive and wrapped around the wooden sword. It was spider silk force. Victor felt as if the wooden sword in his hand had been wrapped by a python. A huge sucking force came, nearly pulling it from his grip. Excellent! Victor shouted loudly. His inner force erupted and shook the broom away, but the look in his eyes toward Leo had completely changed. This move, illusion and reality giving birth to each other, hard and soft in harmony, is truly exquisite. Leo, the strength of your arms and your control of force are stronger than I imagined. Did you train this from sweeping the courtyard? Leo panted, face full of excitement. Yes, adoptive father. Mother said this is called heavy sword without edge, great skill appears clumsy. I rolled my eyes white behind the window. That was Jin Yong, not me. Victor nodded, looked up toward my window, his gaze even deeper. It seems Madame's martial arts insight is far above mine. He muttered to himself, no, I only have rich theoretical knowledge from reading novels. The next day, Victor went to the study again to read Jasper's essays. Has this second son been poisoned by me lately? Not infected by my inspiration. His writing was full of views opposite to common sense. Things like, the people are water, the ruler is the boat. Water can carry the boat but can also overturn it. Things like, soldiers have no constant formation, water has no constant shape, must be flexible like ducks. Victor read until he slammed the table and praised, flexible like a duck. He held the essay with trembling hands, deeply moved. This child used to only memorize dead books. Now he had such broad vision and practical thinking. Was this also taught by Madame? The steward beside him smiled and agreed. Yes, General. The second young master now says every day he must learn from the ducks. Victor sighed endlessly. Madame is truly a divine being. Not only does she understand martial arts, she also understands the way of governing the country. Having such a wife, what more could I ask? Thus, my image in Victor's heart rose from lazy village woman to hidden transcendent expert, all-capable goddess. He began changing his ways to please me. In the morning when I woke, there was already a bouquet of freshly picked wildflowers by the bed. At noon while eating, he personally served me food, his eyes so gentle they seemed about to drip water. Madame has worked hard. Eat more. I haven't worked hard. I'm really very idle. In the evening he even started bringing me foot, washing water. The great general actually squatted on the ground washing my feet. The scene was too beautiful. I didn't dare look. General, this is against the rules. I wanted to pull my foot back. Victor held my ankle with one hand and looked up, eyes determined. In front of Madame there is no general. Only husband. Madame has given so much for the Hu family. These small things I do are nothing. His broad, warm palm carried the calluses from years of holding a sword and rubbed my soul until it tingled. I looked at this once decisive, iron-blooded man now squatting obediently like a golden retriever in front of me, and a strange feeling rose in my heart. It's over, Sophia. You're not really falling for this sugar-coated trap, are you? You must stay awake. You want to go home. You want to be lazy. Yet this feeling of being unconditionally trusted and doted on by someone was truly addictive. Just as I was sinking into this illusory happiness and unable to pull myself out, the real crisis finally bared its fangs. News of Victor's return to the capital could not be hidden for long. The emperor was overjoyed and issued an edict to hold a banquet in the palace to celebrate the general's great merit. This was clearly a hangman banquet. Everyone knew the Grand Tutor ruled the court like the sky. Victor's great achievement this time made him an even bigger thorn in the Grand Tutor's side. The night before the banquet, Victor was urgently summoned into the palace. The emperor had important matters to discuss. He would not return tonight. The atmosphere in the Hu manor suddenly became tense. That night thick layers of black clouds covered the sky, letting no light through. The wind was strong, blowing the old locust tree in the courtyard until it rustled, as if countless wronged souls were weeping. I sat in the room, my eyelids twitching nonstop. Jade closed the windows tightly. Madame, I'm afraid. Jade's face was deathly pale. The Grand Tutor will not let this chance pass. I calmly analyzed, but inside I was terrified. With the general not in the manor, these 3 children were the best targets. If they were killed tonight, the Huo family line would end. The Grand Tutor's great threat would be eliminated. As soon as I finished speaking, Leo walked in holding his broom, followed by Jasper and Benny being pushed. All 3 brothers looked grave. Mother, Leo said in a low voice, just now this child discovered all the hidden guards outside the manor have been eliminated. Tonight will not be peaceful. Jasper played with several stones in his hand and laughed coldly. It seems the Grand Tutor can no longer hold back. Perfect. My divine machine battalion has been hungry and thirsty for a long time. Benny was afraid but still gripped the wheelchair armrest tightly. I'm not scared. I have big brother, second brother, and mother. I looked at these 3 children and felt mixed emotions in my heart. Although at first I only wanted to use them to get divorced, after several months of living together, my heart had softened toward them. They called me mother. I could not just watch them die. Listen. I took a deep breath and put on the aura of a grandmaster. Tonight the ones coming are probably not ordinary bandits, but the top death warriors of the Grand Tutor's blood-dropper assassins. They kill without blinking and use cruel methods. The 3 brothers' faces changed slightly. The name blood-dropper could make children stop crying at night. Are you afraid? I asked. Not afraid. Leo gripped the broom tightly. As long as mother is here, we are not afraid. Inside I laughed bitterly. What use am I here? I only know how to cheer. But on the surface I had to remain as steady as a rock. Good. Tonight let this Hu manor become their burial ground. Jasper, is your duck battle formation ready? Already set up in every alleyway, and I added a little extra seasoning. Jasper smiled darkly. Leo, you guard the main gate. Whoever comes in, sweep first and ask questions later. Benny, you follow me and hide in the secret chamber. No, I changed my mind. You come with me and stay by my side. If I hid too, these kids might panic. I had to stay here as the lucky charm to hold the line. I am your mother, and I am also the mistress of this Hu manor. If I do not retreat, who dares to retreat? Actually my legs were already jelly and I couldn't walk anymore. The 3 brothers were so moved they almost cried. Right then a gust of cold wind blew through, and the lanterns in the courtyard suddenly went out. In the darkness came the faint sound of tearing air. The sound of sharp weapons slicing through the night. They had arrived. Dozens of black shadows dropped silently from the top of the wall like ghosts, yet they brought a suffocating killing intent. They wore ferocious ghost masks and carried the legendary weapons that could take a head in one strike. Blood droppers. The leader in black spoke in a raspy voice like sandpaper. By order, kill without mercy. No extra words. The slaughter began immediately. The assassins charged straight toward the main house. But the moment they stepped into the courtyard, something changed. Quack, quack, quack. From the quiet flower beds suddenly poured countless huge white geese. The geese that usually looked silly and cute now appeared in the darkness like messengers from hell. They didn't quack wildly. They silently charged at the assassins' lower bodies. Some flew straight up and pecked at the eyes behind the masks. What the hell is this? The assassins had clearly never seen anything like it. For a moment they were thrown into confusion. Then the ground suddenly became extremely slippery. That was duck oil mixed with duck droppings that Jasper had ordered the servants to spread earlier. Splat! Several assassins in front slipped and lost their balance. At that exact moment Leo moved. He charged out from the shadows, the black iron broom in his hand. Actually still the same old broom, but now reinforced with a thin layer of iron by Victor, carrying 1,000 caddies of power as it swept out. First move, autumn wind sweeping fallen leaves. Thud, thud, thud. 3 assassins who had just slipped and hadn't regained their footing were hit square in the chest by the broom. The tremendous impact shattered their ribs. The 3 flew out like kites with cut strings, slammed into the wall, and fainted on the spot. Interesting, the assassin leader laughed coldly. A blood dropper flew out from his hand straight at Leo's head. A milk-smelling brat dares to block the road. The blood dropper spun through the air with a strange laugh that made one's skin crawl. Leo remained calm. He planted the broom and unleashed spider, silk force. Clang, clang, clang. The blade of the blood dropper struck the thin iron layer on the broom, sending sparks flying everywhere. Leo's arm went numb, but he gritted his teeth, twisted the broom, and actually wrapped the chain of the blood dropper around the handle. Get down here. The assassin leader never expected the youth to have such strength. He was yanked off balance. At that moment Jasper appeared from nowhere, holding a slingshot and firing a stone straight at the leader's eye. Crack! The stone hit the mask accurately. Though it didn't pierce through, it still made him dizzy. Damn it! The leader roared in fury. Everyone, kill that woman first. He had already seen it. The 3 brats were risking their lives to protect the woman standing under the main corridor. That was me. The remaining dozen assassins abandoned their entanglements and charged straight at me. I stood under the corridor, fingers playing with a handful of melon seeds, my personal way to relieve tension. Inside I was terrified, but on the surface I kept perfectly calm. This small scene is not worth me lifting a hand. Protect mother. Leo and Jasper cried out in alarm and tried to rush back, but several assassins entangled them with their lives. 3 assassins had already reached me. The cold light of their blades flashed under the moonlight. Jade screamed, "Block them. Madam, run." I wanted to run too, but my legs were truly jelly. In that split-second life or death moment, Benny, who had always hidden behind me, suddenly pushed his wheelchair forward. In his hand was a small bottle. He poured it with all his strength at the 3 assassins. "I won't let you hurt mother." It was chili water, extra strength ghost pepper version from the kitchen. My eyes. The 3 assassins were caught off guard and got sprayed. They clutched their eyes and screamed in agony. I was stunned. This kid has a bright future. Taking advantage of the opening, I finally found the strength to pull Benny back inside. Quick, into the house. But there were too many assassins. The leader broke free from Leo, leaped up and stabbed his blade straight at my back. The stab was too fast, too vicious. Leo was too far, Jasper couldn't reach in time. I felt an icy chill on my back, the breath of death closer than ever before. In that instant, many thoughts flashed through my mind. Am I really going to die? I haven't been lazy enough yet. I haven't gotten the divorce letter yet. I haven't seen these 3 kids grow up and get married yet. Mother! Benny's terrified scream. I didn't have time to think. Instinctively I spun around and hugged Benny tightly to my chest. Paft! The sound of a blade piercing flesh. A bone-deep pain exploded from my shoulder and spread through my whole body. I groaned and my body went limp, collapsing. Mother! Leo and Jasper let out heart-rending roars. In that moment the entire courtyard seemed to freeze. Leo's eyes instantly turned blood red. Some hidden potential in his body completely erupted. He no longer cared about technique or injury. The broom in his hand became a black whirlwind. "I'm going to kill you all. Kill you all." He charged into the assassins like a mad tiger. Every sweep of the broom carried the sound of bones shattering. The leader who had stabbed me tried to pull out his blade but found his leg gripped tightly. Jasper, the usually clean and proper second young master, the one who valued etiquette most, was now desperately hugging the assassin's thigh and biting his calf until blood flowed. He wouldn't let him touch my mother again. I was in so much pain my consciousness was blurring, but I still forced my eyes open. I saw Leo fighting with his life, Jasper fighting with his life, even Benny ramming people with his wheelchair. These silly kids. I only got stabbed once. I probably won't die, right? Just when the situation was about to spiral out of control, and the children could hold no longer, a furious roar came from outside the main gate like a tiger descending the mountain, shaking heaven and earth. Who dares harm my wife and children? A cold light flashed at the main gate and was smashed to pieces by a terrifying inner force. Victor had returned. He was covered in the thick smell of blood, long spear in hand, like a war god descending. When he saw me lying in a pool of blood, and the injured children fighting with their lives, the man's reason completely snapped. The death warrior's long spear turned into a coiling dragon amid a storm of blood and rain. The top assassins who had been so arrogant moments ago were now nothing but paper toys before the raging Victor. One spear, one kill, all died instantly. The leader tried to flee but was nailed to the wall by one thrust. The battle ended very quickly. Victor threw down his spear and ran trembling toward me. Sophia. He carefully lifted me from the ground. Those big hands shook so badly they had no shape. Tears mixed with blood dripped onto my face. Don't be afraid, I'm back. Imperial physician. Quickly summon the Imperial physician. I looked at his terrified face and suddenly felt like laughing. Is this still the awe-inspiring great general? He's crying like a child. Cough cough. I coughed up a mouthful of blood foam. Don't shake, it hurts. I'm not shaking. Victor spoke in a jumble. Don't die. You are not allowed to die. I haven't written the divorce letter for you yet. No, I won't write any divorce letter. I want to protect you for the rest of my life. I rolled my eyes white. Who needs you to protect me for life? I just wanted money and to run away. Are the children okay? I asked weakly. Leo, Jasper, and Benny surrounded me, each crying until they were a mess. Mother, we're fine. Please don't die. Leo cried so hard snot and tears ran together. Mother, from now on I will listen to everything you say. I will never read dead books again. Jasper also cried. Mother hoo-hoo. Benny could only cry. Looking at this family, I sighed. It seems the evil stepmother script has completely failed. This stab, though painful, seems worth it. I'm fine. I forced out a smile. Just a little sleepy. With that I very honorably fainted. Of course, right before fainting I didn't forget to curse inwardly. This melodramatic plot really hurts like hell. The stab was deep but luckily missed by a few fractions. Plus the miraculous medicines Victor somehow obtained. I lay in bed for half a month and the wound finally scabbed over. I originally thought that after suffering this stab I could finally get some peace and quiet. Who knew the style of the Who manor would completely veer off course again? The moment I opened my eyes I saw a circle of people around the bed. Victor had unkempt beard and dark circles under his eyes. When he saw me wake, those big hands trembled like they were holding a hot potato. He brought a bowl of bird's nest congee closer. Sophia, you finally woke up. Come, have some congee. I personally supervised the kitchen and simmered it for 4 whole hours. I reached out to take it but pulled back. His face was tense. Don't move. The doctor said your wound has just closed. You must not use force. I will feed you. A salty fish who had been trying so hard to be lazy, was now living the life of food being delivered straight to my mouth. I opened my mouth and tasted the smooth, fragrant, sweet bird's nest congee sliding down my throat, while thinking, this plot is wrong. If he still doesn't divorce me after this, won't I be imprisoned for life in this cage of pampering by these 4? Mother, look at this. Benny ran in on his short legs, holding a wildflower that had been crushed to a pulp. I picked this myself in the garden today. I listened to you and walked every day. My body really got better. Behind him were Leo and Jasper. These 2 kids were now famous throughout the capital. Leo stood at the door like a door god, holding the iron, reinforced broom. Mother, rest assured. The assassins who escaped that night were all wiped out by adoptive father. From now on, not even a fly can enter this manor without your permission. Jasper waved his new feather fan, looking profound. Mother sacrificed herself to save little brother. This is true greatness and righteousness. This child has already embellished mother's deeds and written the record of the general's wife's maxims. It is now spreading widely among the literati of the capital. Everyone says you are a strong mother, a heroine among women. I nearly spat the bird's nest congee onto Victor's face. Record of maxims. What maxims? I sleep every day and eat. What famous sayings have I ever spoken? Jasper proudly unrolled a scroll. For example, true swordsmanship lies in sweeping away the dust in one's heart. For example, herding ducks values following nature. Everyone who read it sighed that Mother's realm is profoundly deep. The Hu family is truly blessed by our ancestors to have married you. I looked at Victor's face full of approval and even a little pride and felt complete despair. General. I tugged his sleeve, eyes sincere. Perhaps you should still consider the matter of divorce. I really feel I am unworthy of virtue and do not deserve this position. Those maxims were all nonsense I made up on the spot. Victor's face instantly became gentle. He held my hand tone firm. Sophia, you don't need to test me anymore. I know you are indifferent to fame and fortune and don't want to be bound by these empty titles. That stab. You didn't just save Benny, you completely redeemed me too. In this life, a divorce letter is impossible, unless I die. The three brothers caroused in agreement. Unless we die. I lay back on the pillow, silently pulled the blanket over my head. It's over. This life is completely buried in the hands of these four overthinkers. The Grand Tutor finally fell. The assassination that night became the last spark. Victor held the Blood Droppers token and allied with the Qingliu faction in court that had long been suppressed. It exploded directly on the Golden Luan Hall. They say before the Grand Tutor died, he was still troubled by one question. How could his carefully raised death warriors be completely annihilated by a flock of ducks and one broom? On the day the Grand Tutor fell, the capital was decorated with lanterns and flowers. Victor achieved great merit. The emperor bestowed countless gold, silver, and jewels and granted a plaque. Whole family loyal and righteous, to hang above the gate, but none of that had anything to do with me. I was busy carrying out Lazy Life version 2.0 in the rear garden. Since I couldn't leave, I would turn the Hu Manor into my personal retirement paradise. I had Leo turn the training ground into a sunbathing area, so he could practice broom swordsmanship there every day and conveniently sweep away the mosquitoes around me. I had Jasper take the duck flock farther to the estate, but he refused, insisting they were the elite of the Divine Machine Battalion. In the end we compromised. He led the ducks on patrol inside the manor every day under the glorious name, Imperial Guard. And Victor, since he no longer had to fight battles, completely turned into a wife-obsessed fool. Sophia, look at this cloth, it's tribute from Shu region. They say wearing it feels very cool. Victor held several bolts of silk and waved them in front of me. I was lying flat on the rocking chair biting melon seeds and didn't even bother to lift my eyes. Very good. Make some clothes for the children. They already have some. This is for you. He squatted down naturally and took the melon seed shells from my hand. Sophia, there is one thing I have always wanted to ask you. What? You said when you entered the gate you only wanted me to divorce you. Was that true? He looked at me, a trace of amusement in his eyes, as if looking at a mischievous child. My heart tightened, but my face remained steady as a rock. Of course, who would want to be stepmother to three troublemaking brats? He laughed, a low, pleasant sound. But if you really wanted to leave, why did you guide Leo when he practiced martial arts? Why teach Jasper military strategy? Why use that strange method to save Benny? Sophia, you actually have a soft heart, don't you? I opened my mouth but said nothing. Should I tell him I guided Leo because his sweeping was too loud and disturbed my sleep? I taught Jasper military strategy because his reading was too loud and disturbed my sleep. I saved Benny because I really couldn't stand the smell of that medicine anymore. No one would believe those truths. You don't need to explain. I understand everything. Victor held my hand. You are the kind of person who has a snake's mouth but a Buddha's heart. You pretended to be lazy on purpose to lower the Grand Tutor's guard and secretly protect the children, right? I sighed. Whatever you say. On the matter of overthinking, I concede. You are the strongest in the capital. 1 year later, in the rear flower garden of the Hu Manor where the fragrance of fruit filled the air, Leo had become the youngest commander of the Imperial Guard in the capital. The iron, reinforced broom in his hand had become his trademark. They say once during a palace inspection he used a single broom to sweep the three armies clean. The emperor greatly praised him, saying he had the ambition to sweep the entire realm. Jasper took the imperial examination and became the most controversial top scholar of the year. His essay discussed the relationship between poultry and military strategy in governing officials, making the chief examiner's beard tremble. Yet the emperor personally approved first place, saying he had rare strategies. Benny's body had completely recovered. He had even grown into a chubby little boy who ran after Jasper every day helping with chores. And I was still lying on that rocking chair. "Madam, the general is back," Jade happily called out. Victor walked into the courtyard wearing casual clothes, carrying 2 packages of pastries from the virtue-gathering shop. "My favorite. Sophia, today the Emperor wanted to bestow upon you the title of first rank Imperial Madam. I declined for you." He sat down beside me, broke off a piece of pastry and fed it to my mouth. My eyes lit up. Declining was wonderful. Those ceremonies of receiving the edict and giving thanks are the most tiring. He smiled and ruffled my hair. "I know you hate trouble. So I told the Emperor that Madame only wants to stay home and be lazy and does not wish to receive any honors." Was the Emperor angry? The Emperor said a true expert naturally has the temperament of an expert, and he praised you as a great hermit living in the city. I contentedly swallowed the pastry. The sunlight on my body felt warm beyond words. Although I failed to get divorced, although I had become the legendary expert known throughout the capital, although every day I had to face 4 men who overthought too much, these days didn't seem so bad after all. "General." I closed my eyes and called softly. Tomorrow let's go on a picnic." "Alright, shall we bring Leo and the others?" "No, too noisy." "Alright, just the 2 of us." I burrowed deeper into his arms, found a comfortable spot. "Divorce, forget divorce. Since I can't get divorced, then let's just live like this for the rest of our lives." After all, being a salty fish worshipped by the whole world is also quite tiring, isn't it? The story ends with a very simple truth: the greatest power does not lie in weapons, but in using the heart to guide others. When you put the right person in the right place, awaken their self-respect and responsibility, even the once thorny children can grow on their own and protect each other. Facing evil does not necessarily mean fighting violence with violence. Sometimes wisdom, discipline, and perseverance are the lasting paths to breaking the deadlock. Before learning to stand firm as a person, first learn to give others the ability to stand firm. True power lies not in swords or force, but in the quiet wisdom of guiding hearts. By trusting and placing others in fitting roles, Sophia awakened her Stepson's hidden potential and self-respect. What seemed like laziness was profound insight. A broom taught mastery. Ducks revealed strategy and simple care healed wounds. This tale shows genuine love transforms thorns into pillars, chaos into harmony, and weakness into unbreakable strength. The greatest lesson: before teaching anyone to fight the world, first empower them to stand tall on their own. Real mastery is lifting others up. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share Raccoon Tale to help more stories come to life. See you in the next tale.